those, we loaded out of sync rotation to really wind up that thoracic spine, and then we proceeded to move and add our lawnmower and then the further load with out of sync rotation. Today I'm going to take you through another little journey, another little sequence and progression of that with some in sync rotation loading, and I'm going to share with you why. A lot of these activities, there's a lot of different reasons why we could potentially use them. Right now I'm going to share with you a few of my little secrets in terms of why I use them. First, we're going to go through the common lawnmowers with the pivot lunge matrix, and then we're going to go through the uncommon as well. So what I like to do first, we're going to just grab our little utensils here, our little functional tools, kind of get ready to have a good time. We're going to start right arm. Before we went contralateral leg, so opposite leg. This time we're going ipsilateral, same side leg for our loadings. I like to use this for a TZ1 kind of loading right here so that I can further kind of progress the medial / the internal rotation of the tibia and the fibula, so that I can further evert kind of that calcaneus, adduct and plantar flex that tibia or that talus, and then medially rotate the femur as well as the pelvis from the top down. I like to then, with this in sync loading right here, I've got pelvis rotating right, I've got thoracic spine and shoulder girdles rotating right, which gives me type 2 in sync rotation at that at the thoracic spine. I'm really working on here with the in sync rotation and loading, really winding up that pelvis on the femur in that TZ2 position that we need in gait, a lot of our explosive activities, to kind of wind and load up that butt, that posterior pelvic girdle. Let's do a couple more right here. So we have just our typical posterior lunge that we're finishing in with the pivot lunge. Now in that same position, let's go pivot lunge, posterior medial, pivot lunge, posterior medial. So we're really taking that pelvis and the thoracic spine with the rotation of the posterior medial lunge, really spinning it further. Now let's go posterior lateral, so load in sync and finish with the posterior lateral kind of pivot lunge. I like on that posterior leg, then that TZ2 hip, I like the internal rotation loading I'm getting, but I also like the abduction I'm getting as the pelvis is dropping to the left. So we're here and here. We're now going to go with our lateral lunge series and then do our posterior lateral lunge series, if you remember that guy. So we're going to load kind of in sync with our rotation, spinning up the pelvis to the left. We're going to come on out. So first do a little kind of posterior lunge, a little bit hard when we're playing with a nice little side hill in the back lot of Maverick PT, which is under construction. So we're here, and then we're really kind of going after that posterior hip. Again in TZ2, getting us that good internal rotation. The nice thing about this, now we can progress. So lateral lunge, in sync rotation and loading, in sync rotation and loading with the posterior medial lunge. Type 2 in sync meaning pelvis, shoulder girdle / thoracic spine, rotating in the same direction. Type 2, because we have rotation, side bend in the same direction. We're now going to add the lateral lunge, a finish with a little out of sync loading with a little medial lunge. So base foot, again pointed 12 o'clock at a clock. Camera's on a little bit of a different angle here. And boom, boom, and boom, boom, and boom. I love getting that good out of sync rotation loading. I love getting that transverse plane, that rotational load here, as well as the frontal plane load. We're going to progress the lawnmowers later, another episode, to adding to the equation some press matrices as well. Kind of further load the hips, thoracic spine, scaps from from the top down. Let's now sequence and kind of move to our posterior lateral lunge. Posterior lateral lunge is going to be in sync rotation loading. It's going to finish with some out of sync kind of loading. So what we have here, we're going to go ipsilateral, right arm and right leg, step, finish and follow through. A little anterior lunge. Posterior lateral lawnmower to a little pivot, anterior lunge. Pivot, anterior lunge. With this finish now, we have pelvis rotating left, thoracic spine, shoulder girdle rotating right, pelvis dropping on the left side to the right to load up that butt in the frontal plane. We therefore have type 2 out of sync rotation and loading throughout that thoracic and lumbar spine. Great internal rotation and loading of that back hip. Let's kind of the front hip. Let's go with a little anterior medial lunge now. Let's really kind of wind things up. That posterior lateral lunge with the finish. Again, we have that out of sync kind of loading, but we have that good kind of ipsilateral driver and load. So the posterior lateral lunge, we have anterior medial pivot lunge, and now we're also going to go medial with it. Really kind of wind things up. Out of sync rotation with the load. Out of sync rotation with the load. And good. That is the common lawnmower matrix with the pivot, lunge, loading, in sync, rotation.